Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank all of you for being here. I appreciate the work that you guys do. Look, whether we like it or not, election integrity is a huge issue, bipartisan issue in this country. Whether it's perception or reality, people have to have confidence in their elections. And the questioning of elections is on both sides of the aisle. It's not just one side of the aisle. In 2018, Georgia's gubernatorial election, Stacey Abrams refused to acknowledge her defeat by Brian Kemp, citing integrity of the Georgia election. So we see it on both sides. This is an issue that has to be addressed, and at least in Georgia, the largest concern is over mail-in ballots. Through studies over years and years, when there is fraud, and there is fraud in every election. I mean, we have to acknowledge that. It's an issue that's in our country. It's in every state. It's minimizing that fraud as best as we can to make sure that it doesn't affect the outcome of the election. And then we have to do it in such a way that it gives the populace confidence that we are at least trying our best to have an election that's full of integrity. So with that, Secretary Fontes, just to simplify things, I'll just address questions to you. In Arizona, like Arizona, many voters choose to vote by mail. Can you tell the committee what protections Arizona has in place to ensure mail-in ballots are actually going to voters at their correct mailing address, and that the signatures on the ballots match the signature Arizona has on file for each voter?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Loudermilk, first and foremost, I have to take umbrage with the notion that the conclusory statement that you made there is fraud in every election. That's just not true. It's never been proven.
You can.
So I'll start there.
Let me
As
ask
for the address
you can
verification
verify. This is my time. You can verify to this committee that there is no fraud in any Arizona election. 100%.
It's an entirely different question than stating that there is fraud in every election. It's a very different.
Okay.
That's exactly what you said, sir.
But to answer your question,
but to answer your question,
the difference is if
you'd like me to answer your question.
The time belongs to me.
Yes, sir.
We can have an interaction, but you have to allow me to continue on with something you brought up. I don't see how there's a difference by saying that there is fraud in every election, and then you can't guarantee that you've never had an election without fraud. But this is, I think we have to be intellectually honest going forward, right? We deal with a constituency where not everyone abides by a common moral code, that we respect the rights of each other and we follow the rule of law. There are cheaters out there in every state. We can't fix the problem unless we're intellectually honest. So with that, if you could please now address the issue of how do you ensure mail-in ballots are actually going to voters at their correct mailing address, and how do you ensure that the signatures match those that you have on file?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Loudermilk, as to the address verification system that we employ in Arizona, which has been in place for a very, very long time, continuously updated. We use the National Change of Address database by the United States Postal Service. We use a first and second notice system to our county registrars, which will send a second piece of mail if we have returned election mail. And that second piece of mail is a second notice to the registrar. That back and forth communication via election mail, which is a little different than first class mail, it cannot be forwarded, by the way. So those are some of the techniques that we use, among others, but I would like to touch on the signature verification system that, again, we've been using for a very long time in Arizona, a couple of decades, as a matter of fact, that uses 3 layers of human eyeballs on these signatures. And these folks, by the way, I would argue are better than the signature checking folks in some law enforcement agencies, because they don't just do ballots on election day. As I indicated in my opening, we've already had 4 elections in Arizona. Guess what? Over 80% of our ballots on average now are by mail, and that means every single one of those ballots has to be signature verified. These are the same people trained by the trainers who train the FBI in their signature verification process.
Let me follow up on that. Are the signatures verified against the signature on the application or on the registration?
They are, well, that is essentially one and the same. And we keep a lot of those signatures in place to have a total voter record. And we will hopefully be able to, although there's been efforts against this, utilize the entire record of a voter's signature because it changes. It adjusts over time. We get a little older. Sometimes you have something like Parkinson's or a physical injury that gets in the way. And because that does happen, if we have a mismatched signature, we make every effort to contact those voters either by phone or email, or even employ some of the political parties to go chase down ballots where there are mismatches before the end of the cure period.
All right. Thank you. I yield back.